Hey everybody, Vincent Pleasant back again from Pleasant Woodworks. Today, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff on my bench. Today we're going to start working on some boards, a set of chaos boards for an upcoming fair I have to do at the end of this month, October 2023, and hopefully I'll have them all done in time, given the work schedule and everything else that's going on around here. I already have some cheese boards in the progress, cheese slicers. Got some couple ingrain boards that have to be finished, and a host of other things that I have to do and still have to get wood for. But the task for this video is to turn all of these scraps into chaos boards. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the process. Alright, so the first thing I want to do, I want to cut down these really long strips into more manageable strips. So I got my stop block set, I think it's like 21 inches or so. But the first thing I'm going to do is just take the long strips, cut them down, and then reorganize them by size. Right now they're already organized by size, but I want to get some of these long pieces cut down to more manageable sizes, and then we'll organize them and make them random and start the gluing from there. So first up, get the cutting. Alright, so we got those cut down. Now we can make things a little bit more organized, but before we get too far ahead of ourselves, what I want to do next is I want to separate the pieces from ones that are already ready to be glued up versus ones I have to run through the table saw or maybe the joiner or some other things. Because some of them are pieces that were ends of boards, or when I cut strips of boards for edge grain cutting boards, sometimes I'll have, that much left over when I want a strip to be that wide or something like that. So I just set it off to the side. So those are pretty much prepped. They just have to be ran through the cutting board, or through the table saw rather. Others have to have some more processing done to it. I know I have some thinner pieces. You may have seen it already. I have some thinner pieces that have to run through the drum sander. I'll worry about all those later. Like I say, I'm kind of just running through, kind of flying by the seat of my pants, so to speak. I've done chaos boards before. I know I've put a picture of one on here before, but that was from cut-offs from actual cutting boards. This one is from scraps. So I don't quite have a method or pattern just yet. I have a method, but not sure of the order of that method just yet. So next up, going to start separating pieces that need to be ran through the table saw and get those cut up. Alright, so a slight deviation than what I said before. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and cut some strips. I've got them grouped together. All the wood that's here and there is over a inch and a half. All of these over here are under an inch and a half. Now you may see me move some stuff off to the side simply because I noticed that it's not planed yet. All of these strips are cut-offs from other boards that they're at least surfaced on three sides, one edge and both faces. So we'll end up just cutting off the other edge that wasn't cut before. No problem, no big deal. I just say that because I'm looking at a piece of maple right here that the face was not plain. So that one's probably going to end up over there in the stack that's going to be processed tomorrow. So next up, go ahead and cut these strips. I have my table saw set at 1.5 inches. So all of these will be cut down to 1.5 inches. All of these over here, those are under 1.5 inches, but under 1.5 inches, but over 1 inch. So those will be cut down to 1 inch. My goal is to have strips that I can glue together to make as close to 13 inches as possible without going over, and also be of similar length, so I'm not wasting too much. So next up, cutting these strips to 1.5 inches. Alright, got this first little batch done. Gonna take a break from recording and go ahead and cut down the rest of these strips and be back after that. Alright, so this was a lot of work. I didn't realize I had so much scrap wood. Oops, should have did this a little bit sooner. But anyway, I got all the wood cut into strips. All of these on the bench is cut to 1.5 inches thick, and all these back here were cut to 1 inch. There were cutoffs from cutoffs that wasn't big enough for another 1.5 inch strip. So to cut down on waste, I cut all of these to 1 inch, and it left me with a bunch of thin stuff like this. This stuff I'm probably going to keep for accent pieces. Just run through the drum sander and get that side cleaned off. So for now, they're laying right there until I can get to them, whenever that is. So next thing I'm gonna do, it'll be a good bit of time lapse. I have everything roughly organized by length again to cut down on waste, and it'll make a little bit more sense coming up. But I got everything roughly set by length. I'm going to mix them up, random real good, and some sections may have more say walnut and maple, and others may have more Purdue and Purple Heart. But I am going to mix them up for the first glue up. Now all of these, I only have a 13-inch planer. So this method, again, there's many different methods of doing this, but in this method, I'm going to get everything grouped into 13 inches, right at as close to 13 inches as I can without going over the 13 inches, so that once the glue's dried and set, I'll be able to send them through the planer to get them planed down. So coming up is a good bit of time lapse. I'm going to go and organize them into 13-inch sections, and then go straight into glue up and be back after the first glue up. Alright, so we got all the panels glued up. Different species varied them by different panels, varied them by species. And now that they're all glued up, we're going to run them through the planer, just taking light passes. The 1-inch boards I'm going to run through first, and then I'll run the 1.5-inch boards through. And just taking light passes just to clean off the top, get them all flat. And then we'll move on to the next step from there. Now you may notice these strips that are sticking out like this on both ends. That's for a reason. Like most woodworkers, beginning woodworkers, we have planers such as this, and from time to time, or most of the time, they may have snipe. So to combat that snipe, we have these extensions sticking out so that the snipe gets on the portion of the wood that we're intending to cut off anyway. So I do that to both sides. I had a problem with a good bit of snipe, probably about 3.25 inches on each side. I just redid my in-feed and out-feed tables last night, so it's not so much, if at all. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. So I'm gonna clean off these panels, clean off the glue, skim the top, get them pretty flat, and then we'll move on to the next step where we cut our first set of strips. All right, so we got all the boards planed down real good to go on that. One thing that I did do off camera, you may notice on some of the pieces, like where the glue kind of ran over on the edge. Because of that, I went ahead and ran this side that I'm gonna put up against the fence of the sled. I ran it on the joiner, took like a 32nd of an inch off just to clean off that glue so it won't affect it riding up against here. So next up, I'm gonna cut the strips. I believe what I'm gonna do is we're gonna cut the ends off, just trim up the ends, and then cut our pieces. I believe I'm gonna cut them at 2.25 inches each strip. But I think that the best way and time efficient way would be to go ahead and trim the edge of each one. Then I can set my fence to the length that I want and then cut all the strips from there. So I believe that's what I'm gonna do is go ahead and trim up the ends of each ones. I'm doing the 1-inch ones first, and then I'll go to the 1.5-inch pieces that next. All right, so we got the strips cut. They look pretty nice. I like it. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna jumble them up, okay? My calculations are right. We'll get 3 boards the size that I'm wanting. I'm wanting it to get about 24 inches in length, and well, have 1 board about half the size. So my wife's here. She's said she'll come help me. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take bits and a piece here and there from each one and put them together and make some boards. So ready to start? Mm-hmm. All right, let's go. All right, so we got these mixed up pretty good so far, at least I think. We're happy with it, right? So next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna glue these up. I would have done this all yesterday, but smart me forgot to go get more glue, even though I knew I was running low / out. So bad me. But we're finna get to it today. Alright, so next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and glue these up and let them sit, and then we'll cut up and mix up some more. Alright, so we got the first or second glue up done. Next thing we're going to do, I'm going to run these through the drum sander and kind of rough flatten them real good. Get them, like I say, relatively flat. Once we get that done, we're going to cut the boards at an angle, kind of at a 20-ish or so angle. It's nothing scientific. It really doesn't matter. With these boards here, we're gonna cut that angle with the bandsaw, just as we did with this one, or we're going to do with this one. Join it, run it through the table saw, cut some strips, and mix them all up some more. So, time to get that going. Time to cut some strips at 1.25 inches. All right, Santa's little helper is back in the shop. And what we're going to do next, we're going to take the 3 large boards that we used and mix them all together. And make separate boards after they're all mixed. And I'll try to shoot for or determine my sizes by at that point. I'm thinking right now 1 large board, 1 or 2 mediums, and 1 or 2 smalls. Not quite sure. But we're gonna mix these up here. Got our small board here. We're gonna mix it up by itself. I got something extra planned for that one, and we'll go from there. Surprise, surprise. Gonna use those cutoffs from cutting those boards up. Ah! And don't laugh at me. Oh, we forgot to mix this one up. Let's see. Let's do there, and flip every other one. And now I'm gonna cut this part off camera, and then probably do that one like that, and then do that one something like that. So then we're looking at 1 large board here. This one here I'm gonna cut in half. Once it's all squared up, I'm gonna cut it in half. So we'll have 1 board here, 1 board here. So we got 1 large, 2 mediums, and a 3rd medium / small / something. So we'll get out of all those scraps, we'll get 1, 2, 3, 4 boards out of it. The other end pieces over there, I could glue them up, just a thought. For if you try to do this yourself, if you haven't done it already and you're listening to me, you can clean those up over there and glue those together and do something like cut them into coasters after they're glued together, cut them in half, make some coasters out of it, something like that. I don't necessarily want to. However, this one here has been saying coasters, coasters, coasters. So more than likely I'll end up doing it. So next up we'll get to gluing. Alright, so the next few steps we're going to do, we're going to flatten these boards out with the router sled drum sander combination. Then I'm going to get the boards nice and square before we work on edge profiles, grip for the handle, for the hands, and move on from there. Okay, so that was a good little bit. So next thing I'm gonna do, gonna sand all these boards. We got the juice groove in the big one, did some edge profiles, did a 1/4 inch, I believe, round over on this one and the medium one, and then the two smaller ones I did an 1/8 inch round over just to break the edges. I also used that 1/8 inch round over to round these right here, part of the handholds, and right here, so it's not like cutting you when you grab it. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and sand these. I'm going to use this Bosch sander here with the turbo mode to do the 60 grit, just to get rid of this the sanding lines from the drum sander. And then once all of these are done with 60 grit, then we'll move over to this sander using this sandpaper to go from 80, 120, 180, 220, and then finally 320, with raising the grain in between 220 and 320. So got a good bit of sanding work to do. Got some hand sanding to do the edges and the juice groove and the handholds on this one. So got a good bit of sanding. I'm not gonna bore you with all the sanding, but see you back once they're sanded. Alright, so after a long journey, the boards are all done. I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but these boards are made for a fair that's coming up next week in Louisiana. This board, and this board will all be for sale. This board will be given away as a raffle. I like the way that the boards turned out. Everything looks pretty nice. There was one part that I will say, this little area right here, I thought that I had messed something up, but then I realized, hey, that's curly maple. It's got that reflection. But thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. Please, if you feel so inclined to do, hit that like button, the subscribe button, and when you do subscribe, hit that little bell icon underneath it. so that way you'll be notified every time that I post a new video. See you next time.